I feel like the first half of our pizza life, we spent making Via seem bigger than just two brothers from Detroit. We acted like we were this huge corporation the whole time. And now that we're with Savory and we are becoming a huge corporation, now we're like, oh, it's just two brothers from Detroit. It's kind of, and I think that story is worth more than acting like a huge corporation. So I feel like we didn't know what we were doing, but it ended up working out right. I think getting a consistent product, consistent experience early on felt like it was a big company doing things right. And now it's important that we keep the story fresh and go tell our story to the staff that this was not just some ploy to make money, to grow. This is from the heart. It just happened to catch on.
Yeah. This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guests, co-founders and brothers, founders of Via 313 here in Austin, Texas. My men, Brandon and Zane Hunt. Are you feeling unstoppable today?
Every day.
Dude, I'm looking forward to Zane. What do you got? You got to say something, man.
Every day.
Every day? I love
Every
it.
day.
I love it.
It's good to see you again, man.
Third time on the show. And this is like a dream come true, the kind of show I want to host where it's not about feeding new people into the funnel. It's about establishing relationships, finding people doing cool shit, and going deeper and following the journey over time. So first time we had you on the show was back in 2018. Your episode 560. Then we had you back in 2021, just when you were going with Savory Fund to get some private equity, and you guys have been busy.
And the ratings were so low, you had us back.
Always sees a dip when we're on.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would imagine. I think the first time,
go ahead.
Hopefully I'm not out of line saying this, but I think the first time we were with you, I think you came to my house.
Yeah, we were at
kitchen
table.
In the dining room, right?
You guys were very generous, hospitable, welcomed me in. This strange dude from New Hampshire.
Yes.
Like, what are you asking these questions? But it's been so fun to watch your growth. You guys have been vulnerable. You've been transparent. We had Andrew Smith join us from Savory to talk about private equity, and that was a kind of a new conversation for me. And 4 years into it, you went from 5 locations in 2021. Now you're at how many locations?
23.
Yeah,
We're opening
23.
24th in about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So in 4 years, you've more than quadrupled in size.
If the math checks, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Let me
wild.
get my calculator out.
So I can't wait to get into it. Before we dive into where we left off, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you guys have for us?
I pulled this up on my phone. I keep a list of ones as I'm reading different books. And one of my favorite ones, for us especially, is we have a PhD. We're poor, hungry, and determined.
Ooh, poor, hungry, and determined.
Really,
you
talking about unstoppable. There's your formula.
Poor, hungry, and determined. So dive into why that resonates with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're, obviously, like you said, we're two brothers from Detroit. We don't need to regurgitate the other 2 episodes, but raised by a single mom who basically worked nonstop to make sure we were taken care of. But never really made probably more than 40 or 50 grand a year, and just on a single income, grandparents helping us out. So we grew up, I would say, below middle class, and we were on food stamps for a little bit, but later in life, we both got jobs pretty young, and were able to help around the house financially, at least be self-dependent, to take the burden off her. And then, hungry and determined, I think we both realized we did not want to keep living like this.
Yeah.
Seeing how hard our mom, she passed away at a very young age, and I'm sure it was stress related.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way to live. It was pretty rough to watch.
Well, you guys are definitely hungry. You're definitely determined. The growth has been fun to watch, and just the conversation over time. I mean, it was a cool transformation from the first time to the second time I spoke to you, and I can't wait to see what the continued growth looks like. So, 2021, you're at 5 locations. Take us to what you were feeling at that time. Kind of refresh our listeners. What was the pain? Why did you feel like you needed the private equity? Also, have I stopped sweating yet? Can I put my
Yeah, you look good. No, you look good.
Excuse me. I think for what I remember, because it feels like it was a long time ago at this point. It's only been 4 years. Well, we've been partnered with Savory for a little over 4 years. So if you go back into those times, it was actually during COVID. So leading into COVID, we were at 5 locations, like you mentioned, and in general, life was pretty good. I mean, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot lately is that if someone were to ask any business owner, like, what percentage of the time do you think you're operating at or near 100%? How often are you actually hitting that? And we had said that we were probably at 5 locations with the team we had assembled. We're probably somewhere in that 90 to 95% range. That's how we felt. And that 5 to 10% that we're trying to get to is what's keeping us going every day. That's the motivation, is to become more and more perfect. That was prior to COVID.
At least our version of perfect, right?
Yeah, our version. That's fair. So that's what we were after, and we were making key hires, and sometimes they would work. A lot of times they didn't. It's like a 50-50 proposition. I feel like even if you do all your due diligence with somebody, to come on as a operations director or I don't know,
right? Like HR,
yeah, like HR
or above the store.
So you guys, I think I remember you said at your second location you hired operations director. Mm-hmm. Like that was something you guys recognized.
Yeah, I don't know if we called it that, but that's essentially what it became,
or something.
Yeah.
So is this like been a continued like challenge for you guys? Like operations, is that what would you say? So like if you're constantly striving for 100% and you're at 90%, like where is that 10% typically that you're striving for?
What do you think?
Like flawless execution every night. And then also when we do make a mistake, to be the team to know that we own it and correct it in the moment. I think a lot of bad habits get brought into the workspace from maybe bad employers, where they're like, we'll make excuses for why we failed or just not take care of the person. And I think it's unlearning that habits and then making sure that the staff knows that even the Uber driver, the Lyft driver, a taxi cab person, people that you interview, people that you fire, these are all customers. Everybody that you deal with day to day, food reps, liquor reps, those are our customers. They're out talking good or bad about us on how we treated them when they were in our 4 walls. And making sure that message, so that's that last 5%, to make sure that every bit of the staff understands it.
How do you see it and correct it in the moment? I think that's where people because you have to be aware of it, and when it happens, you have to make sure other people are aware of it, and you have to correct it. But what's the tactful way to do that?
I mean, really, to me, it's a part of the onboarding process. Like this is what we do here, and this is how we operate, and it is a focal point, something we talk about every meeting, that we have to try and perform perfectly, again, what our version of perfect is, and also, again, owning our mistakes. I think continuously visiting it, like we never just say it once and let it go. Again, that number is a lot lower now because we're focused on growth, not perfection now. I think the team does a really good job maintaining the best they can while focusing on growth. But, when we were doing it, we were doing 1 store a year. So it gave us a full year to really spend time with the staff, get fully ingrained on what is important to us. And I think the staff, I think majority of people care. They come into work and they want to do a good job, but you have to tell them what a good job is.
Right. You have to paint that picture.
Yeah.
Well, what's the aiming point?
Yeah.
What's the job done right look like, so I know when I'm doing
Yeah,
a
I
good
find
job.
it very hard to believe that employees come to work wanting to do a bad job. But you need to be telling what it is.
It's crazy. This is going to sound so obvious to anybody that hears this, but we tend to be, and it took us a while to realize, whatever we focus on, we're actually good at. It's just, but you can't focus on everything. It's impossible. There's enough time that day. So it's about staying on those things, to his point, because whatever we focus on, we're going to be pretty good at. I do believe that. I mean, maybe that's pretty commonly held knowledge, I think.
So whatever you focus on, meaning like whatever you want to make better, you're going to make it better as long as you stay focused. Is that the message?
Yeah, I mean, we had spent some time with Pale's Sudden Service out on the East Coast.
Dude.
Yeah.
My universe is colliding. I'm talking to them on my way back
best.
northeast.
Yes.
Do you know the name David McClaskey?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we took his
I had
class
Dave on the
a couple
show.
times. He's
Dude.
brilliant.
Oh my God, dude!
Yeah.
I can't wait to
Him and David
keep going.
Jones too. That was his the partner on the business there.
Not
But
planned. This
two
is
of the
not planned.
smartest people you could spend time with, and they do this demonstration where the teacher will take 1 step every minute or 30 seconds, and then they have you just run around the classroom, and then when he says stop, he's 1 step ahead of you. You've just been running around with your head cut up, and I think that's a lot of us in the restaurant space. We're all just putting out fires all day long. And then when the day comes to an end, you're like, what did I truly accomplish? You just kept the boat afloat. You didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
And they do that demonstration. And I think that really hit home for us because we had a lot of missions that we were trying to accomplish. But if you could just focus on one of them and see it to the end, you'll actually be further along a year later than trying to do it all at once.
I love that. I'm talking to Thomas on my way back to the Northeast. I'm stoked for that. He's going to be a great episode. So when you went to the McClaskey training, what was the focus? Like, why? Like, how did you discover this? And like, why did you go through that training? What were you trying to be better at?
We would bring them down here and teach our management staff. Again, I think it's more about, I think the employees really cared and wanted to do a good job. And I'll speak for myself. I'm not always the best at explaining what that looks like. I know what I want in my head, but it's hard for me to like put it all on paper for you.
That's a common entrepreneurial challenge.
Yeah.
The visionary, they can see it, they can feel it, they understand it, but they can't translate it.
Yeah. And I think we're fortunate, or at least me, again, I like going out to eat at nice restaurants, and I get to see perfection in a lot of these really nice or high-end restaurants. And I would see, like, why are we not doing that at our restaurant? There's no difference. The price point shouldn't matter. It's just, obviously, that's the minimum for them, but why can't that be the minimum for us?
Well, look at Pal's. They serve burgers and fries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we would talk about folding the napkin after a guest gets up and actually giving them a linen and cleaning the table and wiping it in between courses. Like, why can't that exist in a pizza place? And so when you're talking about that to someone that is a lot younger than you and probably hasn't had that dining experience yet where they've just been pampered all night, you're like, you don't really know. I could take you there, but you're not going to sit there and nerd out about it with me because you're just going to enjoy the food. I think that's most consumers. But so I think Pales does a really good job of just putting all that, everything that was kind of in our head on paper, and why that is the North Star that we strive for and why it's so important. Because I think Pales would tell you, like, that's not the best burger or the best hot dog or the best sweet tea in the world, but what they do is, same with Chick-fil-A, and how they do it and how they treat people,
right?
And how you feel when you leave there, then that's important.
You got anything to add, Zane?
No.
That's
okay. No, I do not. No.
Long-winded today.
So, excuse me, I think you're right on.
Too much coffee.
Yeah, right. No, I mean,
where were you guys at when you realized that, like, you could go get this additional training? Because I think people are hesitant to go out and spend money to get better. They're like, they don't justify the spending.
It is hard to justify it. I mean, we're talking to get people to fly down, put them up in a hotel, feed them, take care of them, and then the time with the staff. I mean, you're looking at $20,000, $30,000, and that was 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago.
5-6 years ago, 2019, when you had 3 locations.
Yeah. No, I think we had
3 restaurants and 2 trailers.
3 restaurants, 2 trailers.
Yeah.
So it is a huge commitment, but my God, to see how excited the staff was and hear them ask such great questions made us feel like we were doing the right thing.
Did you guys go over the 4 pillars of excellence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think excellence, focus excellence, process excellence, and people excellence. Does that ring a bell? Yeah, we had him on the show, David McClaskey, and we went over those things. And he's actually going to be doing, I think, a training on May 6th. Yeah, May 6th, he's starting a training. And anybody who's interested in David McClaskey's School of Excellence, or I can't remember exactly what it's called, head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/David McClaskey. I have a landing page there to go over and sign up for that training. And he is, in full transparency, going to throw me 20% commission. So thank you for supporting the podcast. I appreciate your help.
This sounds like this was a set up inside job, but it was
I
totally didn't know.
I want 5% for you mentioning that.
At least I didn't know.
No, but I can't say enough good things about. It started with K&N Management. That's here locally with Rudy's Barbecue, which has since sold. Started with them, and then we started getting real hyped being around them, and they were like, "Oh, it's all Pales." Sudden Service is really the founder of a lot of these ideas, and so we started spending a lot of time with them, and it kind of re-energizes you.
Yeah. And I love when my world comes full circle. Like, this podcast is meant to be journalistic. I'm looking for clues. I'm talking to people looking for, like, what did you do? And when, like, there's patterns that emerge, I'm like, time to lean in. And, like, we're leaning into that because I've heard nothing but amazing things. So 2021, you guys are at 5 locations. You were saying that you get to this point where, like, You take it as far as you can. You're at 90%. You're trying to get to 100%. And there's a certain things that you can't do on your own. And you realize when you get to a certain point where you can't do it on your own, I think this is what you said in the last conversation. It's time to start looking. That's when maybe it's time to look outside of what we can do. So take us to that pain point where you are in 2021 and why you thought, Savory was the solution for you.
Well, I think in the early stages of that, it came from the two of us making what we felt like were really important hires for our company, so we could achieve that last 5 to 10% that we were after. That would help get us closer to that. But 2 or 3 of those people that we hired didn't end up working out for us. And every time you do that, it sets you back tremendously. It's not just the money part of it, it's the time. And what it does to the team, it sends mixed messages to the team. You do your due diligence. You hire these people. You think they're going to be a good culture fit, and they come in. They're the complete opposite of what you thought. And then sometimes, by making those kind of hires, they act one way in front of us, and they get in front of the team, and it's a completely different persona.
Yeah.
And there's like a gap there. So the staff is like, "Hey, this guy's not treating me well," and you're like, "I don't see any sign of that. I take you at your word." But then there's a trust factor that gets lost from some of those longer tenured employees or team members. They're like, well, I don't know if I trust the owners completely.
Or their judgment.
Yeah, their judgment.
You hear a similar thing when people roll out software. They're like, this software is going to be the answer. And then you get the rah-rah, you motivate the people. Buy-in is not easy.
Yeah.
To get the team to buy into a big change that's going to force new habits to be formed. And when you do that, stop and go, more than twice, on the third time, people are like, what another time? You start to lose that.
Yeah.
Here we go again. This is going to suck. And it's not going to work.
At that point.
Yeah, and but I feel like we did a good job of communicating it. Listen, I'm sorry. We made a huge mistake on this last hire. Interviewed this way, showed out this way, checked all the references. I think we were pretty good about being raw and honest with the staff. We would do huge company team meetings with 200 people on the call and just be like, I'm sorry, I misread that person. That is on me. I will try my best to make sure that never happens again.
Yeah.
And I think, again, just having ownership on your mistakes is so huge with the staff.
So that was going on. And so we, in a way, you've got us hitting our head against the wall, not getting that last 5 or 10%. And at the same time, we've got a discussion between the two of us about, well, what do we want our futures to look like? What are we after? How long do we want to keep doing this in these roles? There was a discussion around, well, what's the long-term plan? Is it like, I have 2 kids, so maybe one of my kids want to start working in the business and work their way up, and we can start to pass some knowledge onto them, and there could be a passing the torch moment, somewhere way down the road as they get older. We talked about that. Neither one of my kids seems super interested. I mean, that's not their passion, so I get that. I'm not trying to push my passion on theirs. But so then we're looking at each other like, well, what do we want to be 50, 60, 70 years old doing this? Which I think is pretty stressful, honestly.
Yeah.
It felt stressful at times.
Yeah. I think restaurant owners can fall into this trap of being so consumed by the business that they never think about what's the end game. Retirement plan is death. We keep going until we can't go anymore. Go ahead.
And we come from an environment back in Detroit where we know a lot of small business owners, and we've watched them do that. And it's a little bit different here in Austin. Thankfully, we don't have to work with our head down in the business every day like some of the people back home do.
Yeah.
But it's still stressful. It's still a weight.
Every time that phone rings, you're like, what happened now?
Yeah. So you guys are in your mid-40s around this time, right? Mid-40s to late 40s. You're starting to ask yourself, we have 20 years to build out our exit strategy. And I think it's important. You got to start asking yourself while you have the energy, what do we have to do to take care of ourselves long term? Is that what was starting to go through your head?
And too, again, just being personal. I would talk to my financial advisor, and he'd be like, "Your net worth." I'm just gonna make up numbers. Might make me sound awesome. Your net worth is $100 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
I want to know you
personally. Wow. But I mean, this is what you're faced with and 99 million of it is tied up into VIA. You're really not. If that thing collapses, you're not worth anything. You need to pull some chips off and spread out. Spread out the portfolio a little bit. And I was having talks like that. I'm sure you were too. of like, man, all your eggs are in one basket. You really need to start thinking about spreading it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was weighing on me too.
So, you kind of like you peer into the future, these different paths you can take, and you're like, well, at what point do you think maybe private equity was the solution? Why was it that stood out to you as the way to go?
I think everybody's got that dream of somebody scaling your brand and you still getting paid. I mean, that's that's the perfect situation. You think about it, right? Like somebody's going to take the keys to the Ferrari and drive it for you.
Yeah.
And then bring you back a Lamborghini later or whatever's a better car. I don't know. Subjective. But
so we talked about this in the last conversation. Basically, private equity, like you're not giving your business to somebody, right, to scale it. They paid you 60% of the value of the business at that point.
Well, it depends, right? I mean, there's different partners out there.
Different packages.
Some will want to buy 100% and have you out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's case by case. It all makes sense. Like there's so many variables. What is your end game? Do you want to be done? Do you want to cash out now?
Yeah.
Do you want to stick around? Do you want to have influence? Like,
we had 13, 14 offers and they were all different.
What were like? Can you give me like an example of like without naming names, like bad offers, so we can like?
I wouldn't say any bad offers. It's just what's best for you in that moment. None of them were. I mean, the fact that anybody's even bringing an offer, you should be kissing their feet. Honestly, right. I mean, we're relatively small to make a dent in that world with 5 stores.
Right.
They prefer you to be closer to probably 10.
What was different about you that made you get that opportunity sooner?
I think we had a high average volume. Average unit volume.
Can you get into some of the economics at that time?
Yeah, I might be off, but let's just say the stores were doing about 3.5 million.
Times 3 locations at this
times
point.
3, yeah.
Plus
that might be a little high, but yeah, in that ballpark.
How many seats per location on average?
About 75, 80.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, unless you're at campus.
What was your occupancy costs?
5-6%.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we'd have one location that would be as low as 3.7% at one time.
Okay.
And then we've got one that's as high as 9%. So it's a little all over the place.
We always tried to. I mean, pizza is a little bit of an anomaly, so I'm cautious to start throwing around food cost numbers. But pizza is pretty awesome in that
50% prime cost.
Yeah, we were running sub 50, maybe 48, 47.
Yeah. And the reason for that is flour and water. Good volume or good value, perceived value in pizza.
Well, you still have to buy good meats and you still have to buy good cheese.
Yeah, and that adds up.
Right.
But there's a window of like I think there's a certain kind of food that people are intimidated to make at home. Pizza, sushi, pastas. Like, so I feel like you can charge a little bit of a premium because you can't just go home and make this.
Right.
You can now with all the information, but it's intimidating to people.
Mm-hmm. So you guys had good numbers, good prime cost, good volume, good sales. And you also, I think the other thing, and this came out in the last conversation, is that you had a unique selling proposition. You had this thing, Detroit-style pizza, that like nobody really ever chose to focus on that. And for you were just trying to bring the pizza that you grew up with to a market that had never seen it before. And then there's this trend that's starting to catch. But whether you started the trend or who knows.
Just a part of it.
Just a part of it, right? And like it's like, okay, well, we're hot right now. And like there's like this window. Like, do we like, and I think that maybe Savory or the investors saw like, hey, like they have a good brand, they have a good product, they have good service, like they have the numbers.
And another thing to consider timing wise, talking about windows of opportunity. When we started to work with bankers that put the deck together to allow us to go out and find offers, that was pre-COVID. Then COVID hit, and we pulled back from the work we were doing. Because like, well, maybe there's no money in that space, right? And everybody's really
see how this plays
pausing.
out.
Yeah, they're pausing. Everybody's uptight, rightfully so. And then after 6 or 9 months of just sitting on the sidelines, we decided we would go back out to market, or not go back out, but actually go to market for the first time with the deck. We felt like maybe there was a captive audience type of moment because, as we all know, in the private equity world, these people are sitting on money that needs to be deployed in a certain time frame. That money was pre-raised already, and it needs to be spent within a certain time frame.
COVID or no COVID, they got to get rid of their money.
Yeah.
So, and then you had less people coming to market with ideas and less pitches going on. So we thought maybe we've got a captive audience right now. It was good advice we received because it's exactly what happened.
Strike while the iron's hot.
Yes.
So
it was like threading a needle
with the money that's available on the table. So it was good. It was good timing.
Yeah, I think so.
Felt like it.
Yeah. What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network. The other thing I need to bring to the surface, I think people get distracted by growth. They think about, like, they take their eye off the ball and they look out into the world and they try to promote and find opportunity. Whereas what you guys focusing on excellence, hiring the consulting, doing 10% better today than we did yesterday, and like doing the little things, putting that energy in, that will attract on the opportunities. I think I want to make sure that came out clearly. Like, I think that's one thing that you guys did really well, is you 10% better every day.
Yeah, I don't want that to ever get lost, is that we never started this, even never scaled it to sell. It was never, I don't even think we realized how much it was worth until we started talking to the bankers. And when they started, doing the napkin math off just some raw numbers, they were like, this is kind of the ballpark where you guys are at. And we were like, holy cow, we were just doing what we thought was right. I think we were pretty lucky that we both worked at a movie theater chain that was, in a good way, highly corporate. I mean, we counted lids and straws every night to make sure inventory was perfect. And we hit great numbers. And that was kind of ingrained to us at an early age. And I think we carried that over to this business where we counted every pepperoni. We counted every salad got weighed. That's a consistency thing as well. I think those principles were ingrained to us early on, and it was a consistency thing and a food cost thing.
And if you fast forward a few years to like 2008, 2009, when we were just getting started with the idea of what became Via 313, excuse me, we got to Vegas to the International Pizza Expo, and the kind of people we were trying to meet and network with in those early days were more business-minded people, more financial-based people, and less pizza-based. So we would attend, I'm drawing a blank on people's names.
TJ Shire.
Yeah, TJ Shire. Or like the restaurantowner.com guys.
Yeah, Jim Laub.
Yeah, great guy.
Yep.
Solomon. What was his first? I can't.
Jim Laub, I'm pretty sure.
Jim Laub.
Jim
the
Laub.
National
Jim Laub,
Restaurant.
for sure.
Yeah.
The
National Restaurant Association ended up buying, I think, owner.com. So
That's a great website.
He cashed out. Yeah.
Just an amazing
him.
resource.
Yeah, I mean,
We were so lucky to have them for us.
And he was an amazing supporter of Restaurant Unstoppable. He was one of my first sponsors. Earned commissions like promoting what they're doing. It is to this day still a great tool, but like they were way ahead of the curve.
We still pay for it. And
really?
I still look at it. Yeah. I mean, you never know. So like those are the things that the framework in which we were working with. We wanted to be really solid on those, but I think Brandon's right. The origins of that, the root of that, comes from us working at a small movie theater chain in Detroit together.
Yeah,
because we were learning all those things through osmosis. We didn't even realize what we were absorbing.
Yeah, I always recommend, if people want to get into this industry and they have no experience, but they've always wanted to, go work for a franchise, go through the management training,
Hit your cogs,
or maybe even go open a franchise first. Figure out the business. If you have money behind you and you have franchise experience, then you can buy into a franchise. And then if you roll out a franchise, like that will give you all the groundwork you need. You'll get the materials. Yeah. It's a great foundation. It's super powerful. So in 2021, after, I think you guys paid, or they paid you 60% for, you would have taken 80, I think they said, or 20%.
I mean, we were open to taking 100, honestly.
Being like one out, like just being like, let's cash out.
Yeah, I mean,
what made you stick around?
I think it was important to Savory that we were still around.
Why was it important to them?
I don't feel like Savory would partner with anybody that wouldn't do it. There were founders that wouldn't stay on board.
I mean, I'm going to say it. I don't mean it like in a bad way. Yeah. I just think it makes the brand worth more having founders around, whether that still be making sure that the thing don't get too far off the tracks, or kind of like, I don't want to say parading us around because it sounds like a bad, like they're using us, but in a sense they are.
Behind every great restaurant is a great person or people.
Yeah,
and that is the soul.
I feel like the first half of our pizza life we spent making Via seem bigger than just two brothers from Detroit. We acted like we were this huge corporation the whole time. And now that we're with Savory and we are becoming a huge corporation, now we're like, oh, it's just two brothers from Detroit. It's kind of, and I think that story is worth more than acting like a huge corporation. So I feel like we didn't know what we were doing, but it ended up working out right. I think getting a consistent product, consistent experience early on felt like it was a big company doing things right. And now it's important that we keep the story fresh and go tell our story to the staff that this was not just some ploy to make money, to grow. This is from the heart. It just happened to catch on.
Yeah. And I think that is such a smart move on their part. Mm-hmm. You need a restaurant is more than a brand, colors, fonts, mm-hmm. food, like recipes. The culture is people. The culture is relationships. And you need to be able to draw from that source of energy mm-hmm. that is the people behind it. So it will go, but for how long without those people who started it? I think it was wise on them. Yeah,
I think Savory would admit they're not innovators. They're not idea people. They know how to scale a brand, and that's what their secret power is they know how to scale a brand. They have a team that knows how to scale a brand, and that's what they do. So.
Yeah, let's get into that. So. In 2021, 5 locations, now at 24
in 2 weeks.
24 in 2 weeks. Yeah. You said that you went from focusing on excellence to focusing on scale. So what is, I guess take us through this pivot since we last spoke to you. What was it like to take a step back into go from being the two at the top of the hierarchy, to taking a step back and surrounding yourselves with higher chiefs.
Yeah.
How is that?
It's a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
You mean for us personally? How is it?
Yeah. What was that like?
It's hard. It's been way harder than I realized it was going to be.
What was the biggest challenge for you guys?
For me, my whole life was Via. And it's not like Savory's done anything to disrespect the brand by any means. It's just, there's so many more people now. There's 60, 70 people in a corporate office that do the job that just me and him were doing. Obviously, it's on a way bigger scale now. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say you're not needed because they don't treat us that way, but you're just not needed. We have a real estate guy. We got a HR person. We got a design team. We have a president now. And he calls and checks in and makes sure that he's not off bases. So everybody's respectful of the process, but you're not the guy anymore.
Yeah. Have you heard of Dr. Benjamin Hardy, the book 10X is easier than 2X? Mm-mm. It's this idea that you should do only 20% of the things that you're uniquely qualified to do and surround yourself with 80% of people. Sense. Yeah. And I think when you double or when you try to go 10X, which is essentially what you guys did when you went to private equity, you get to offload all the shit that they have recruited the best in that they can find to focus on all those elements, marketing, HR, accounting, whatever. And now you guys get to focus on being Brandon and Zane.
And it's hard. You got to be okay with just doing nothing and
representing the brand.
What feels like nothing.
It feels like nothing. Yeah. We go to store openings. We go to store visits. Obviously, we're brand ambassadors. We're out and about, always promoting. But to be in the dirt every day that's a lot different,
Yeah.
Because we get treated differently by the staff now too.
Can you help me understand what it's like in terms of the structure? So it was, what was your organizational structure before? You and Zane both of you co-owners. Mm-hmm. What were your titles? Were co-CEOs?
We never were title people. Just the owners.
The owners, and you guys. What were the titles below you? I guess.
It depends on obviously what time, but
Director of Operations,
and that was Brian Mason at the time. Mm-hmm. Ellie Willis did a lot of the training manuals. She had passed before, moved on. I don't mean to sound like she died, but she had moved on, but she was crucial on all the training manuals. day to day, like how the flow's going to go. And then Brian really just kept everything together, make sure we hit costs.
It's kind of like a director of art.
And he's also a good culture guy.
Yeah, he kept the team together.
Yeah.
So just director of operations, really, that was it.
And then below that was like managers.
Well, we
GM,
also had
GMs.
somebody. We had Denise Stewart handling catering. She's been with us for a long time.
Yeah, she's it is our longest tenured
And that's
employee.
that's a big revenue stream for us. It's very important.
So now what's the hierarchy of VIA 313 today in terms of like
gosh.
so like you have a president?
President.
What are your titles? Do you have titles or just
Founders.
co-founder?
Founders.
And then there's a president.
VP of Finance is under him. The Director of Operations, which is a bigger title now than it was then. It's a proper Director of Operations now. Because essentially, Brian Mason was a district manager, essentially. We just called it Director of Ops if it ever grew. But he was watching the 5 stores just here in Austin. But now we have stores in Denver, Houston, San Antonio, Salt Lake City.
So you got president, director of operations.
Yeah.
What else did you say?
He's a director of finance. You have
Director of finance.
Director of Finance.
We have a brand controller.
Got a controller.
Brand controller. Is that marketing?
No.
Not
I
necessarily.
don't know what a marketer does.
And marketing falls into social media, so we've got that too. We've got like a I don't know what the official title is.
CMO.
Yeah.
Head of
No,
marketing?
we don't have that. We don't have anybody that's a CMO.
I thought they sent one over. It changes so fast too.
But then you
know?
have kind of but like Savory also manages they do your HR, your accounting, your marketing, your like they pretty much are like the managing organization, right?
Yes.
So like you can go out and raise capital to find a CEO, to find a COO, to find a CMO, to find a CFO, and like raise $1 million just to cover the salaries of all these people.
And not just that, it's having the map and the understanding of knowing when those people need to be brought in as you grow.
So what
there's a time to do it and there's a time not to do it, and they've done it. Whereas, like, if it were just Brandon and I doing it, we wouldn't know the right.
Yeah,
we
just
wouldn't make a
hire.
hire till we felt pain.
Yeah.
Like, that's different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, build the house before you move into it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you can go out and you can buy like all the people that you're gonna like and put into your house, or you can find a house that's already built and move into it. And that's kind of like I think the difference of like choosing to scale on your own,
Exactly.
raising money, or just going with a company that has a proven track record.
And
of
when you go
scaling.
into growth, you need to have that
Yeah.
map.
Yeah. So when you guys joined them in 2021, what was like what was the map? Like they showed you like here's the map. You're
yeah.
here. We're gonna take you here. What was that map look like? What did they tell you the map was gonna look like?
What's funny is I remember us sitting in their the meeting room with the glass, and they had like the markers that they would write on the glass, and they drew it all out. I took a picture of it. I have it on my phone still.
I mean, it's crazy. They'll tell you what we're doing in 2027. That's just how that world works. Like it's all mapped out.
Strategy, plan.
Yeah. And it's a whole new world to us.
What was the plan they told you? Like, what was the plan that they delivered? Do you
Well,
remember?
at that moment, are you talking about hiring or just growth in general?
When you guys said like we're on board, what's the plan? And they said
it was
here
it was because he wanted to, everybody at Savory, starting with Andrew and the other board members, they wanted to strike while the iron was hot. They thought that we were riding a wave. Well, we're part of creating the wave. I mean,
we
not
identified.
solely, but we're part of that wave.
Can I summarize that real quick? It was the fact that you had a really good brand.
Yeah.
Your numbers were really good. Unique selling proposition, leaders in the sector, and a blue ocean effect where like
100%.
So like we got to make this happen while we're still where we are.
Yeah.
Right. So take it from there.
So the idea was like, let's put the foot on the pedal and let's push it down hard. Let's grow fast. And I mean, it's a little uncomfortable because we've never done that, but we trust them.
Were you scared
Yeah.
of what? What was your biggest fear?
A failure.
What-
Biting off more than we could chew. Yeah.
And, the first one we did with Savory was Orem, Utah. And Orem is, honestly, if I lived in Utah, I would live pretty close to Orem. So I'm not talking
Where is
bad.
that?
It's down by like Provo, down by...
BYU right there.
BYU.
Yep.
UVU is right there. I mean, it's a lot of college kids. But it's also we're a block away from the intersection of University and University, which is the busiest intersection in the state of Ohio.
So it's a great piece of real estate. But
Ohio, Utah. Let's not bring Ohio into this.
We're never going to Ohio.
No.
So no.
It's not a place you go to. It's a place you go through.
So the sixth location was on University and University. And it was right on this college campus.
Yeah, it's a big building,
It's nearby.
4,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I think it is the biggest one we have still to this date. And then it opens with not much of a splash.
Ooh. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
That we're not as hot as we thought we were. I still have the notes of, we all took guesses what the average, what that store was going to do. And I thought, oh my God, we're going to do $4 million out of this. This is a no-brainer. I thought anywhere we've went in Austin, it's been easy almost. And then we go out there, and it's like, oh, nobody gives a shit about us out here. It's humbling.
There's not brand recognition.
That's all it is. I mean,
that's all it is.
But we can win people over time.
Yeah.
Right. But
And
that's
we're seeing that.
And that's what's happened. But I think what happened here for us is, I'll speak for myself. I don't know. But I mean, I feel like I have somehow forgot what it was like in the early days of the first trailer. It was slow.
Yeah.
Second trailer was slow. When we opened Oak Hill, we were busy right off the start. So that's the anomaly, actually, in hindsight, is how busy we were.
Do you
at
think
Oak
you
Hill.
had brand recognition at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when we opened
And a
North Campus, it
captive
wasn't as full of hype as Oak Hill was.
How many years from what that you just covered in that time?
It's December of 2011 for the first trailer, about a year or so
4.5.
later for the second trailer.
They say it takes about 2 years,
And then
you need operating capital to float yourself for 2
and then
years.
April of
until-
2015.
Yeah.
So it's 3.5 years
Yeah.
for 3 locations.
So you were operating in the black at this point, but you weren't really catching traction as like brand recognition loyal customers.
Yeah.
But then when you take a step back for us, we're just like, well, we'll win over time.
And
We're patient enough to, that's okay. That's what we did at North Campus here. We won over time. But that's not private equity. Private equity, they want to hit the ground running, and they want quick ROI.
Yeah, and they have metrics, right? They assume the store is going to do $2.5 million. They assume it's going to net 20%. I don't remember what they put in front of us, but we were like, oh yeah, all day in our sleep we'll do that. And then you open, and I don't remember. Maybe it was $1.7 million. So it's not like
In the first month or first year?
first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a total loss. It was paying its bills, but it was like, oof, I was thinking we were going to do $4 or $5 million out of this.
So when you guys went
Humbling.
from 5 to 6, were you kind of like turning the gauge up slowly, or were you like 6, 7, 8,
Oh,
9,
oh
10?
yeah.
We were on steroids.
So in the first year, how many locations you opened? I think you said 5 were going to be open in a year.
Well, the first year they do kind of slow. Like get to know you. You got to switch everything over, all the bank accounts, all
Training
the
programs have to get tightened up there.
So they almost take a full year to build the plane.
Can we talk about how the plane was evolved or modified to go? Like, what were the things that they took? You said training. What else? Like, what were the things that they said? Okay, you're here. Let's get you here.
Yeah. They explore every little thing. I mean, they turn over every rock. They question, are you happy with the POS system? Don't touch it. Okay, we'll move on. Are you happy with the ovens? Okay, don't touch it. Move on. I mean, they go through every thing.
Is there an opportunity to make this better? Yes or no?
Of course. Make it like what can we do to make it better and also not mess up what we just bought? I mean, I think they're extremely sensitive to not messing it up.
One of the things, if you look back, Eric, is that before we partnered with them, and then directly after the partnership was signed, we'd have long session meetings with them where it's like, well, what are your non-negotiables in the brand? And then they would write those things down. And guess what?
That's what
We're
it was
4.5 years into this, and those things haven't been touched.
What are the non-negotiables for your brand?
The recipes can't change.
Okay.
I mean,
Cheese
we can be a part of it, but
specifically,
they could just go change them.
What else?
Like the cheese specifically.
Yeah.
The look and feel. Well, I shouldn't say so much the look, because we're pretty flexible in the
Culture?
look.
Or like the brand?
I'm talking about in the restaurant specifically, like
Aesthetics.
the music, the way it feels. Like we don't want to get too far away from how it feels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's evolved, but it's not way off.
Who we hire, which again kind of goes along with culture.
Like the avatar of the perfect employee.
Kind of. I mean, the thing is we've always wanted, because our home lives were so messed up, we always wanted work to be a safe space for like, man, if your home life sucks, come to work and just
your
hang
work
out.
family. That idea.
And that was always home for me, was work. Thankfully, the kids seem to have healthier habits now, and work is not their home. But our generation, work was home. And but if they want to be that, we want to be there for them. Like we treat everybody with respect. So in Salt Lake, we got a lot of punk rock kids that work for us in Salt Lake, and it's fun.
It's just about diversity is incredibly important, and inclusion is incredibly important for us. So that's reflected in how we hire.
So
I mean, I'm not saying that we go out there with that in
intention.
mind, but that ends up happening.
So you guys say, the first step is like, okay, what are the non-negotiables? Okay, like this is Rockstar. Like in order to keep you happy, like let's get it out now. Like what are the things that you need to see stay the same? These are the things. Word, you got it. Next thing is, okay, let's go through. Let's inventory your entire organization. Where are you? Where do you think you could be to be optimized? Let's focus on those things. So they said, or you said the POS ovens. What were the things that you think were the biggest evolutions in terms of that list, that laundry list of all the things that you said? Training systems.
Training has gotten 100 times, but yeah, we used to just open stores and didn't. You learn as we go because we didn't have money to pay for a week of training. We need to just get open and get money coming in.
Just out of the gates, though, in that first year where it was like, let's take it slow, let's figure this out. Like, training. What were the biggest like improvements or like transformations that happened in that time to ramp up?
I think it took a minute to get there, but the overall design of the place,
like ergonomics.
Yeah,
or
well, we opened up
optimization.
We've all of our spots were second gen and got open for somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000. So we're flipping spots pretty cheap. And they're not going to sit here and say we got an open bank account, but they were like, what is your perfect store? No budget. What is the ideal build out? So I think we achieved that with them. It took a little bit of time to get there. We brought different designers in. And
we're talking about designs, talking about like or like aesthetics or like
aesthetics
like
more so.
I think both.
More thoughtful approach to flow as well. But more aesthetics is what I'm talking about. Because, again, we can't just build these stores with things that we collected at a junkyard. We don't have the time and space for that.
So to set it up, what happens is they come in and evaluate our existing brick and mortar locations. And they're like, well, why is this here? Why is that there? And we're like, well, that's the second gen spot. We took it over.
Because we didn't want to move that wall.
That's what came with the building.
Filed permits.
Or certain furniture is like, well, why do you guys have picnic tables at the east side? Well, because they were there. I don't know that I would have chose that, but that's what's there.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, what are the things that work and don't work at these locations when we go to replicate? And one of the things that we were taught, or told early on by Andrew specifically was, now, when you're growing from 5 to 20, let's say 5 to 15, 5 to 20, in that range, that's the time to try things. Let's see what works. So, and we have locations number 6, 7, 8, 9 look a lot different than the last 3 or 4 do. We're constantly evolving and taking a look at what's working and not working for the new locations.
And even on top of that, like from a marketing standpoint, we're just now starting to build out who our customer actually is.
Right.
Now that we're in multiple markets. We could tell you who our customer was in Austin, but when you start going to Denver, Salt Lake City, Houston, and San Antonio, who is your customer? That's a different person.
Yeah. So that first year, you opened the first location, or the sixth location out of all the locations in Utah. How much time elapsed from 6 to 7?
My time is terrible.
Ballpark.
I would say to go from 5, well, not just 5 to 6, but post partnership with Savory.
Yeah.
It was over a year, I think, to open the location number 6.
And you're just kind of figuring it all out.
Yeah. And then location 7 was relatively quickly after that.
Yeah, I want to say it was 6 months, but I don't know.
And then what about 3?
Third location with Savory?
Yeah.
Oh, it was even quicker.
Yeah.
And all this time, you still haven't hit your goal with the first location for $2 million.
Correct.
At Utah.
But it's growing.
Where is that now with Utah 3 years later?
Utah, I think, feels to me the most hopeful. Again, we've been there the longest. So the thing is when we build stores here in Austin, we build them for Austin. And you go to Utah, those
Different
families
market.
are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And we build 4 booths, and you're like, oh, we need like 6 people booths and 8 people booths.
Right. Yeah.
And so again, you start figuring out who your customer is and what the space should look like. But I feel like Salt Lake has got the most. We're seeing the strongest upside there. I also think we're like not to get in like political talk, but half the world thinks the world's on fire and half the world thinks it's amazing right now.
I love political talk for the record. I think we need to talk more about it because we're so like, no, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
But like, no, it's meant to be discussed. Like we need to discuss this with like our emotions put aside.
Well,
what's your perspective?
That's the issue right there.
Yeah.
I think that's not going to happen.
That's my perspective is Utah's painting a very broad stroke, but they think everything's perfect. And here in Austin, we're freaking out, right? So we're seeing that reflect on customer spending habits. Sales are a little bit down here from a very high number. Don't get me wrong, but we're pulling back a little bit in Austin and kind of waiting and seeing what's happening. And in Utah, the vibe is kind of like, yeah, things great. And we're seeing that reflect kind of in sales, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. So right now, you guys. Where was the second location with Savory? So you start with Utah, then the second was.
I want to say it was Lee. No, that was. This shit was going so fast.
I think it was Lehigh.
Lehigh.
Where's that? What state?
That's Utah. It's out another Salt Lake City suburb.
Okay, so you guys kind of like centrifugal.
Lehigh's like the tech capital of the area.
Where is the third location with Savory? So
that might have been Sandy.
And is that also Utah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like that. I think it's good to like.
So you can draw like a photo. It's like driving down 35 and going Kyle, Austin, Round Rock, Pflugerville. Like we dotted it right down the freeway, basically up there.
And it's the same thing. About the same.
Yeah,
distances.
you're in Salt Lake City and you head south. It's right along. There's a valley that exists through there, but you've got the lakes on the one side, and you have the mountain range on the other side. So it's just a strip that goes straight down.
I've been down that road.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, you're taking the same growth strategy in market 2 as you had in market 1, and that was one of the things I was curious about. Like, how do you do that same approach of like concentrating on a market, getting market domination, and then moving to the next market?
Ideally,
because you got to basically make it to where it's self-sufficient, where you can have an ops manager up there that oversees
build the bench.
Yeah, but if it's just 1 or 2 stores, it's hard to justify spending that salary on just watching 2 locations. But you get it to at least 3 to 5, then it's like, okay, we can have a salary watch over the whole thing.
So was that the plan when they're showing you this roadmap? Like, okay, we're going to take this to Utah. We're going to test it in that market or expand it in that market. We're going to get to 4 locations in this market, or like how many locations
5
was it?
now.
5 in that market? So you went from 5 locations in Austin, and the plan was to scale it to 5 locations in Utah. And then what was the window for that? 2 years?
If even, maybe a little tighter, 1.5 years, but yeah.
Okay. And that was from 21 to 2023?
Now it's probably 22 to 23.
Yeah.
22 to 23?
Yeah.
And then what was the next market you went into after that?
San Antonio Medical Center.
So you came back to Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always in the plan.
Yeah. San Antonio seemed like the next logical thing. It's just the way the real estate fell.
Okay.
Just because how close it is, and people were familiar with the brand already from Austin.
So, like, to piggyback on what he was saying a second ago about having district managers and key hires in certain markets, San Antonio is so close to Austin, we can utilize the same team from here.
Smart.
So it's not a different. I mean, at least initially.
Initially, yeah.
It's not. You don't have to hire a district manager to handle 1 or 2 locations. Austin can help with that until you get to 4 or 5 locations, and then they get their own district managers. Or district manager. It's just familiarity. We're super comfortable with San Antonio.
Yeah.
We like San Antonio, and we're comfortable with it.
So 2 years in post Savory, you're at 10 locations, going to 11 locations in San Antonio.
Ish.
Yeah, there's some gray area here with what we're talking about, but yeah.
So from that point, which is another like only 2 years or less than a year. In the last year, you went from 11 to you doubled in size.
Yeah, I think we did 8 last year.
And what markets were those in?
Denver, San Antonio, Houston.
So
and
you
Austin,
went to
probably.
one more market, and I mean you stayed in Texas. I think that's smart. Like P. Terry's, I love P. Terry's.
Yeah.
I think what they did when they were scaling, they never went to private equity or anything.
Yeah.
It was just that slow burn. Like we're gonna open a P. Terry's like 2 miles away in that neighborhood.
Yep.
And it was just like that centrifugal circle, slow 17 locations I think they were at before they ever went to a different market.
Yeah.
And then went all the way to San Marcos.
Yeah.
Which is like a 30-minute drive down the highway.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing similarities here where you're like you're finding a balance of like aggression, but like aggression and focus markets, not like one in the Northeast, one in the Southwest, one in the South.
Yeah,
like,
buddy texted me. He was like, "You should do one in Nashville." I'm like, "That's just not how it works." Maybe I think Pizza Emmy has kind of done that where they've kind of spread them out in random key markets. But for us to have a district manager and have it closer to home. Filling in, there's plenty of just so much white space here between here and Utah, all the way up to Denver. We've looked at Vegas. We've looked at Kansas City. I'm not saying we're doing those right away, but we've looked at real estate. So you're keeping it kind of a tight pocket, so it's easy to
I mean, so for your listeners that aren't as familiar with this, and we had to learn this. I'm
not familiar with this. I'm learning right now. That's the whole point of this
I'm not
podcast.
coming from like a place
I'm
of
ignorant.
like where I
Same.
like I know all this. These are things that we've learned from working with Andrew and Savory, is that the next buyer that will take it away from Savory, what they're going to want to see is, have you had success in other markets, not other Texas markets, and that helps, but other markets outside of Texas too.
Yeah, they want to see if it has legs.
Yeah, it doesn't have legs. So, we can dip our toes in that by going into Salt Lake City and Denver, but they're not layups per se, but if they're more of a layup type of feel, if you go to San Antonio and Houston, there's already brand awareness. I mean, people already know us in Texas. So when we come into their neighborhood, like, oh, I had you guys in Austin, and they get excited to have us in their backyard. So it's an easier, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a quicker ramp up.
Well, I mean, I think those cities too, those areas or tourist areas, people love coming to Austin to go because you got to see it. It's kind of like an anomaly. Like, let's go check out Austin. It's weird, getting less weird, more techie, but but there's that brand association. Like, oh, like people who go to Austin will also travel to Utah. Like, people who like in Denver, like
skiers,
outdoor,
yeah.
like outdoorsy people who like to be. There's a lot of nature around here too, like outside the cities. So like I think there are similar demographics in these markets. Is that part of the strategy of like, no?
I don't think so.
No.
So what made, so I'm curious, when you went to Utah, did that have anything to do with that's where Savory is?
Yeah, of course.
Everything to do with it. It's their backyard. They know it. They know it better than any other market.
Got it. And then what was the appeal? You came back, San Antonio right down the street. People are going to recognize it. Houston, same deal, like 3 hours down the street. But like Texas, familiar brand, Texas brand. Why Denver? What was like? Why did you want to go to Denver next? What did they like? Did they give you?
We honestly didn't want to go to Denver. I mean, again, this is kind of funny. Is there's always, you're going to have disagreements, and they, Savory wanted to go to Denver. We didn't want to. We chatted about it, and they strong armed us. No,
well, what was their rationale for Denver?
I mean, I'm sure they had some kind of Placer AI or something that was saying this is what makes the most sense. There was some data somewhere.
What is Placer AI?
We don't use this stuff. This is this is what the real estate team uses. But I think it tells you ideally who the customer is, income, all the usual stuff. Yeah,
it gets to that whole there's a thing called Site Zeus where
what is it?
Site Zeus.
Site Zeus.
Yeah.
Again, we're not like really skilled with these things, but
I mean,
like
this is
we've
why
seen
you
it.
surround yourself with people who are.
Yeah, know this stuff.
Right.
Cell phone data tells you where people's
where are people doing commerce? Like, what do those clusters look like, and how far are they going to actually get that experience? Are they staying in their backyard? Are they driving 15 minutes away? They've got all the data. It's all out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all being tracked every day, all day. And this is it.
I know.
So what are people doing with that data? This is part of the way this data is being used. So again, we have less. Everything we had done. It's funny because when you're going from location 1 to 5, it's all feel. It's based on how we feel.
Yeah.
Our gut. And at some point, it's less about how you feel. That matters still, but you also need to look at data.
Well, there's a reason why you join these people, right? And that's where it starts to get hard, where it's like you're so used to like trusting your gut and like being the shot caller, and then when you have these partners come along and say, "No, this is what we're going to do," you're like, ugh! Like it doesn't feel right, but the data doesn't lie either.
Yeah, and we just try to be honest with them. Again, I think that's Andrew's strength.
Water for me?
I'm good.
I think that's Andrew's strength, is that he will listen and talk us off the ledge if we're uncomfortable with something, or pause and wait until we are comfortable with it. I think he's pretty respectful in that way. But there's a lot of tough discussions. That ain't always the best for both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, we both come from a place where it was I'm saying Detroit, and we're Detroiters through and through. We love our city, and we go back as much as we can. But one of the flaws in the mental side of Detroit and growing up there is being of a very fixed mindset all the time. And it took me and Brandon moving here to realize just how stuck and fixed-minded we were, and to shift into a growth mindset. Part of that is
that come from a place of scarcity where you don't have much, stuck
Probably.
and stick? Or what were you
Probably.
saying?
It also could be a family thing for us,
fixed
too.
and stuck? Is that what you were saying?
Fixed and
stuck.
growth.
Growth.
Okay. So you came from a fixed mindset of like
for
limited
sure.
resources, And now you're trying to evolve into a growth mindset.
Yeah, which means sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable. So sometimes it's okay to give up control to a degree. And I think we both believe that there's multiple ways to grow, but if you really want to grow, you have to I think you have to get uncomfortable or get comfortable with being uncomfortable, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And like, so these are those moments with Savory. We were like, I don't really know about this, but that's what they're experts in, is growth. We're not experts in that. So we have to give up a little bit of it.
Trust the process.
And trust the process.
How many brands are they working with now?
Oof, well,
Are they at 10?
I don't know, man.
I know Self-Block just joined them.
Yeah, Self-Block.
Amir Mustafavi.
I've lost count, to be
Maybe
honest with you.
12.
12.
Yeah, I've lost count.
In terms of this roadmap that they were showing you, what were the other points, other stops? Like you said, I think, Zane, you alluded that their plan is to get this thing to like probably, what is it? Like, I mean, you're at 25 right now. Like,
I mean,
what's the next point?
It's
of
really
selling?
a bottom line revenue thing is what they're after.
Yeah.
Before they start to go out and solicit offers, but 30 to 40 locations, I think, is where it'll end up being before that happens.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Yeah, so it's interesting because typically, like, I actually had Matthew Mabel. You guys might know Matthew. He's a Dallas guy. Matthew Mabel Surrender is the name of his organization, coach consultant. We're talking, and I've identified we're pretty much aligned with the points of evolution and points of like growth. So 1 to 3, then you go into 4 to 10 is the other point, right? And then usually it's around so 1 to 3 is like, what was he call it? It's like the espresso and just like going for it, like being everywhere. He calls 4 to 10 the sit back and relax, where you're not really sitting back and relaxing, but you've kind of figured out a formula and it's working, and you're kind of just, you're tweaking, fine tuning, but you're not going crazy like you used to.
Yeah, you're a little bit out of the woods.
You've just described us.
Yeah.
At 5, yeah.
And then 10 to 20 is, should I stay or should I go? That is where, like, okay, like, am I where you guys were at 5 because you had something that was hot? I think you guys kind of skipped that 5 to 10 because you had like the blue ocean effect, right? Like we have to go quicker and we can go get there faster with Savory. But like now you guys are at kind of like, I think people like that, should I stay or should I go? Meaning, do I sell? Like you guys actually were at that point at 5.
Yeah.
Or do I stick around with a little bit of equity to own the parts that I love? And then the 20 to beyond is the other point.
Yeah.
Which is like...
And that's Savory too, right? Like Savory, their specialty is 10 to 40, we'll say. I'm sure they got a couple more than 40, but that's their sweet spot.
So it took a little bit of a risk on you because they saw the opportunity.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It was a little, but again, the volumes were high, so it kind of justified it. But that they would tell you, like, when you start getting 50 to 100, that's not what they do. That's not their power. They've got this little sweet spot. They might be building up to it.
I'll say I think they're learning.
Yeah,
right now.
you can feel it that they're building up for a bigger ramp, probably. But at least initially, when we met with them, they were like, "No, that's what we do: 10 to 40, and we get out."
Yeah,
it's a good sweet spot.
So who buys the 10 to 40s? Like what's like who are those?
Who's
people?
Another Savory?
Is that like Yum Brands or something like that, or like a?
Oh yeah, it'd be something huge. I would imagine like Catterton or I don't know.
Capital
all of them.
Springs.
Capital Springs. Yeah, some
bigger operations.
Way bigger operations. $billion funds are looking at that, I'm sure.
What haven't we discussed up to this point that I'm just not knowing what to ask you guys? Because this is all like new territory for me.
Yeah, I just, for me, the message is important that gets said is that while it sounds sexy and amazing, again, we have 24 locations. We're not down there doing it. We show up and shake hands and tell our story and really just try to be there to high five the team. I call it being a weekend dad. It's while it sounds amazing, it's not always the most rewarding. I think that's important. It's to be celebrated because it's incredible, but it's also like, man, I have a lot to offer, and I'm not. It can feel like you're not needed sometimes because there's everybody's doing their job.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
How are you dealing with that?
Again, a lot of therapy.
I mean, it's challenging.
It's a lot of therapy.
Yeah. When did this feeling start to hit it? Sink
in the first year for me.
Yeah.
Like it was really.
I would say year 2 for me.
It was really quick. I noticed it immediately. Honestly,
I think some of my stuff was still lingering. Maybe that's why his stuff got offloaded way faster than mine because it was probably. I don't want to say more important.
What were your lanes at this? Yeah, what were the before? What were the things that got offloaded?
Well, he was doing more like payroll, HR, taxes. What else would you say?
I mean, anything pizza related. Honestly,
everything pizza related.
I mean, yeah.
But we
we do that together. I'm not trying to say.
No, but I mean, you'd gravitate towards that more.
What did you gravitate towards, Brandon?
More like day-to-day operations. I like the service aspect of it. And I like kind of just honestly, I was really good at making myself be needed.
So the whole point is to remove yourself, but then you don't take into consideration like the struggle of actually being replaced and what that does emotionally.
Yeah, because I thought that I'll just get this lump sum of money and it's like winning the lottery. I don't ever have to work again potentially. That sounds like a dream. But then when you're still needed, right? They still want to bounce ideas off you. They still want to make sure that they're aligned with what our vision is. But those are 10-minute calls here and there.
Few and far in between.
Yeah.
Right?
So now you're just like, well, I'm sitting at home with money. And again, it sounds amazing, but I have a lot to offer. I'm still young.
You still need, I think one of the things that I didn't realize, I used to tell myself that, this will be great. I'll get all these things will be taken off my plate, and I'll have time to focus on myself, which is helpful. I mean, allowed me to maybe eat better and take better care of myself. I'm not in the grind all the time. So there's a health.
You guys look great.
Thanks.
So do you.
Thank you. We're trying.
That's true. It's helpful, but they take a lot of things. They take everything off your plate. They did. And it's like, and my kids are launching. They're both in college. So there's a timing thing here. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what's my purpose exactly here?
Right.
And I'm still trying to figure that out.
I'm reminded of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Tell me about this.
So the most basic, do I have food and shelter?
Yeah.
Beyond that is, do I have security? Beyond that is, do people see me and value me? Beyond that is, am I growing? Am I getting better? And then beyond that is, am I finding my definite purpose in life?
The third thing you said,
we're stuck in that.
That's challenging right there.
Do people see me and value me?
Yeah, that's challenging.
Yeah, and that is
because we used to feel that way, and I'm not saying it's not I'm not saying it's absent, but it's a lot less.
Yeah,
and we're cautious too, right? Like if we called Savory right now and put them on speakerphone, they'd be like, "You are valued and needed." Of course, they would say that, right? Because it is. We are important to them. I know that. Mm-hmm. But we also have a president, and we don't want to be Jerry Jones hovering over him, telling him what he needs to do all day. Yeah. And then when he fails, he goes, well, I just did everything you told me to do.
Right.
He needs space to do what he needs to do. And honestly, he's got way more experience than we do with scaling a brand himself. So that's a delicate balance, too, of we know how we want things, but he also needs space to do it he wants to do.
Yeah, we don't meddle in things.
No,
that's not
try
how
not to at least.
So your struggle is being where you're so tied to the brand that everyone you were literally seen and needed every day for the thing to survive, and that filled your cup, and that was your purpose.
Yeah.
And you were going to mentors and experts every day and learning and getting better and pulling your team up with you.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just go, okay, here, now you pass the baton, you go, here you go, you take it. And now you're like, well,
now what?
Now what do I do, right?
That's kind of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're 4 years into this. What do you like? What is calling to you? You're almost where you were when you started via 313 back in 2013? 12, 11?
It opened
Yeah.
at 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you have this new like opportunity to go do whatever you want.
Yeah, which is overwhelming too.
Right.
Because we only started it because we absolutely had to. It was only like rode out, it felt like, for me. And it was only a way for him to get out of his job that he wasn't exactly loving. And now it's not so dire. I feel like I work at my best when
Yes.
it's dire.
Urgency.
Yeah.
I
We're
don't-
at our best like that. And
So
how do you create false urgency?
Yeah.
That's common. It's
Yeah.
there's a bell curve of like stress and productivity,
Yeah.
and it's in high stress moments that we're are most
Exactly.
productive, and that's why like when it's at 7:00 on a Friday, like we don't make any mistakes. But 4:30 on a Friday, we're like, oh shit, I forgot to drop off
Yeah.
that, like like because it's like.
And there's like a fraud sense to me that I have inside of me, and I think you do too, where it's like, this, again, was from the heart. There was no master plan of getting rich and selling the brand and get it to 20 locations. That was never the goal. I used to fantasize about just sitting around making pizza with my brother watching hockey like we did when we were kids, and when we were 12 and 16 working in a pizza place.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it sounded amazing.
that.
And just high five customers when they come in and
Yeah.
and we sponsor their kids'
You touch
baseball
every
team.
pizza in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now to be like, well, now you got money. We know we want to do something else post this in the restaurant space, most likely. It feels like a fraud when you're like driving around a neighborhood and you go, you know what this neighborhood needs? Vietnamese coffee. And you're like, I'm not passionate about Vietnamese. That's a very
I
delicate,
like it.
yeah.
I'm not passionate about it.
But that's a
never had
delicate thing
Vietnamese
too. I don't want to
coffee.
be a fraud in the next thing that I do.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, is that a fraud if you're passionate? I think food is one of these things that like look at pizza, for example. You guys Italian?
No.
Irish.
I mean, like is doing, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? What's when you take somebody's cultural appropriation?
Yeah, appropriation.
I think food is meant to be shared.
No, for sure. I don't mean it
And,
from an appropriation standpoint. I just mean like, am I starting this business to get rich because I think it's a hole in the market, or because I'm actually passionate?
Yeah, but you
about
have
it?
to. I hear you, but you have to.
That's what I struggle with.
Yeah.
But you have to start. You have to start a business that does fill a need. Otherwise, you're just. It's
Yeah.
just a hobby.
It's like it's that
Doesn't mean
it's
you're
a
trying to
Venn
get
diagram
rich.
of like like the people who do generally catch traction are usually super passionate. They're all in,
Yeah.
and it just happens to like be this like Venn diagram of like that is catching traction with this market,
Right
at
place,
this
right time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a perfect storm usually.
And that's Via.
Yeah.
In many ways.
So I mean, if you could be doing anything right now, is it looking for a new thing that you're passionate about and creating a concept around
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're sensitive because we still are employed by Via. Savory pays us to do a job.
Are you allowed to do other things? Is that like
Just
something?
not pizza.
Okay.
Yeah, and we try to be respectful, though. It's like if I start doing another bar, I can't put the bar ahead of Via. Like Via should always come first, out of respect of the partners.
That's right.
That's hard because you go from not working for weeks to like you're needed this week quite a bit. So it's really hard to get ingrained in anything that you're doing post Via.
So what ends up happening, and I don't say this in a negative way when I say this, but it's a feeling almost like, I'm not, for lack of a better term, it's like purgatory in a way. That's really where we're at. We're
Yeah.
stuck in this middle space of, we know we're going to have to do something else down the road to scratch itches that we have, but we're still working on Via and we still have Savory.
It still has the biggest tickets too.
And that's where when things come up, that's where our focus needs to be, not on other things
You have
that
to
are
prioritize
distracting.
it when they need you. When
It's
when
the
you're
most
called
important
on,
thing
like-
we've got going on, and we know that.
Yeah.
But it's not a calling that's there for 40 hours a week, or even sometimes 20 hours a week.
I'm thinking of like Carrabba's. You guys familiar with Carrabba's?
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Carrabba. And
They used to do a great job.
Yeah. So they similar situation where they just had this brand that like caught, and I think they owned the original Carrabba's. Like that is theirs.
Have you eaten at that one? That one's
I've had
awesome.
Johnny on the
Is
show.
it down in Orlando?
No, it's in Houston. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Okay.
I don't know if I ate there,
good-
but
good
I
experience,
recorded it there.
It's like almost fine dining. It's like when you see what Carrabba's used to be, you're like, I see why it failed because this is amazing.
Yeah, it's that's what happens.
Semi-failed. I
when
know
you
it's still
scale.
They do pretty good.
You always dilute that original
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
right? And so like, what if you did a Via 313 in Austin? That was like your shop. That was.
I think that's Oak
Is that so like you have that, right? Like where you can still, if you wanted to, like what's stopping you from sponsoring the baseball teams and like
Oh, no,
still
we do all
pizza.
that stuff.
Yeah, Savory's done a really good job of honoring everything that we've done to be involved in the community. All that's still going on. That is one of the non-negotiables, is giving back to the communities
Almost
that we're in.
Yeah, like it's almost like via 313 University. Like this is the gold standard. You know, like
Yeah, that still goes on. But
Yeah.
again, we have somebody that does that now for us.
So your job today is that we mentioned is to kind of to be the anchor, to be like the culture, the energy, the vibe, the founders, to really focus. Sounds like culture is your core focus.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it ends up being that's what it is.
Yeah.
We just don't think about it like that.
Well, and I just say a little bit too because the culture's even evolved past the culture that we started. It's a little more polished now, like in a good way. We were loose. I think you can be loose when you're dealing directly with the owners.
Yeah.
And you can joke about things and because you know it's a safe space. But now when you're, it's a big company and you're like, it's still a safe space, but it's like, it's more, I don't say more corporate. It was always corporate.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like the stakes are higher. It's more polished in a good way. I can feel when Kip's around, that's our president, I can feel him sometimes go like, tone it down, dude. You're being a little too wild. We got the staff real focused and buttoned up, and you're kind of knocking it loose a little bit. And, I have to be sensitive to that because I like to joke around and mess around a lot. And, what they're trying to do is something serious.
Yeah.
And that's Kip's job and the team's job to be serious and keep them focused. And I come in and I'm just high-fiving everybody having a good time and just undid I think it's good and it can be bad sometimes.
Right, I hear you. So going forward, we kind of talked about you're in search. You're allowed to go do other things. You guys are. I mean, I haven't asked how much money you have after all of
Lots. We have
this.
tons.
But is it like what kind of options have you created for yourself? Like, what could you go do right now if you wanted to do it?
Well, we have a couple bars. Nicholas City. We got
Right, that's
three
right. You have
Nicholas
other
cities:
projects.
Fort Worth, Houston, Austin. We've invested in other, Rosen Bagels. I think have you interviewed Tom Rosen here in town?
That sounds familiar.
Really great bagel concept here in town. They got
Can you do
two,
it
getting
one
ready to
more
do a
time?
third location. I don't know. Hopefully
Rosen
that's
Bagels,
not a secret.
ROSEN.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ROSEN.
Well, this
can find
episode will
his
be
stuff
live in
at
3 months, so hopefully it'll be not a secret by then.
Yeah.
He's over at Whole Foods, too. You
Okay.
can find his bagels.
Yeah.
What's his name? Tom?
Tom Rosen.
yeah.
So, we invest in other people's projects.
That's one thing I'm happy you brought that up. Keep going with that train of thought.
No,
sorry.
that's it. I mean, we've done Better Half here in town, which is the Brew and Brew guys.
Yep.
We invested in them. We've invested with Lil Nona's, which was a past employee that had bigger goals and dreams, so we invested in him.
I think that's where, like, if I could be where you guys are right now, that's my dream, is to make enough money with this podcast and talk to enough successful people to be like, okay, like, I've recognized a pattern in what it takes, and like, I'm going to make people's dreams come true, and hopefully be able to go into that restaurant with the podcast and be like, let's share the story,
Let's
the
dive
progress.
into it.
Like, let's pull from all these different lessons.
Yeah.
And like, how can we make you the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
And like,
Well-
here's the money and here are the connections to make it happen.
I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Well, I would say that the irony in all this is we've evolved too. Like the early days of us investing in people and their passions, I don't think we asked the right questions. And because of that, we lost some money.
A lot of money.
And
What are the questions that you should have been asking in the early investments?
I was just thinking about this last night, actually.
I don't know what questions we should have asked. It's just definitely should have vetted them more.
Yeah.
Without naming names, like, what are the things that like you miss that you like?
Well, when I invest in something, there's two things that are important to me. Is one, getting my money back as fast as possible. That's at whatever happens after that is just.
What's the time frame? 2 years? 1 year?
I think 3 years is standard, but 2 years is what I hope for.
What percent interest do you think is a good, like, fair, comfortable, safe place?
Interest? What do you mean?
You,
Like,
you think about like earning interest on your money.
Yeah, you're probably
We don't
gonna.
usually
That's not how that
on
works.
these raises. We're
Well, how
getting,
does it work?
Yeah, we're getting I can't say that word.
Perpetuity?
So like royalties.
Yeah, so the biggest problem usually is you need money to start the fire,
Right.
to start construction, to fire off design and architects. So
People.
people bring in money very early, and this is not a bad thing. It's just this is what happens. I need $100,000 next week, but I'm not opening for another year because permitting and everything. But I need that first $100,000 quickly. So now how we're trying to structure it when we invest is like, can I get a couple more points or some interest on that first? Because I'm going to be the first to fund the project, and my money's tied up the longest. Whoever comes in last in month 8 and closes out the fund is going to start getting paid in 3 months.
Yeah, it's an opportunity cost.
So that is something that we did not do a good job of. You're tying up my money for a long time. And then the other thing, too, is a sense of urgency. What I'm seeing more and more of is people taking management fees, and they deserve it. We took a management fee, too. It's not a shot at management.
Yeah, we did ours years after we opened.
Yeah.
We didn't do it before we
What
were
is the
profitable.
management
So they're taking 6%, 5%, 3% off the top before the investors get paid. And
So you can pay yourself.
yeah. And so they're making, let's just say, they're making $8,000 a month. And then I see at the bottom of the P&L, there's $4,000 in profits. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you made $8,000 and I made $25 because I get 1% of that $4,000 or whatever the math is. And it's like, this sucks. You're not even incentivized to make sure I get paid back.
Right.
So that you hope morally people lose sleep about it, but I'm not really seeing that a lot. We lost sleep. We made sure all of our investors were paid back, or at least on the road to getting paid back, before we started a new project. We know we're owed a lot of money by a lot of people, and they're already doing project 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So, you know what happens? There's a cascading effect. It's like a snowball going downhill. When you're doing right by your investors, like in hindsight, we absolutely did right by our investors. They want to keep following you, and you can always go back to them.
Yeah, you're a good,
and they're like, "Oh, we trust. We trust.
I can bet on you.
Yeah,
we can keep betting on you." And when that trust gets shaken, then it gets a lot harder to raise money, and we're seeing that more and more around
and
town.
then the tide turns.
Yeah,
that's why we did a deal. Personally, we've done this with our partners. We did doubling out, so it wasn't an equity; it was a debt raise. So that means you give us $1 million, we'll give you $1.5 million, hopefully in 2 years, 3 years. And then we started putting a management fee on it, and now we see all the managers are getting paid, not us, because we don't work day to day in the business, but they're getting paid, and that hustle's gone. They're getting paid, and we used to not get paid until they got the investors paid off.
Right. You got a PhD?
Yeah.
What was it?
Poor, hungry, and determined.
Yeah.
and I still would have that same respect of like, if I was cashing a $10,000 check and my investors are cashing $1,000 every month and we're way off, I would be like, all right, I got to turn this until you get paid back. You got to get paid back. That should be the only thing that matters, is getting the investors their money back.
Well, I mean, that's the good long-term plan. If you because then you're going to hit the next ceiling at 3 locations, right? When you need to go to 4 to 10, but you need to get that second round of funding to get the people you need to get there, right? And if you're like a good bet, that's when you like the money, or people see the success you're having, and now money is coming to you and you're not asking for it, which is really that's what happened to you.
Yeah. So, and then you start getting, I don't want to say like greedy, but you start like, wow, we're making a lot of money for a lot of people. You can start tightening up those investment deals where, again, we don't have to sell off the company because you're making your money back. Now we're just trying to beat the stock market.
Yeah.
So if I can get you 1.5 times your money in 3 years or 4 years, now I'm at a 20% annualized return. I beat the stock market. So now I'm not having to give up equity. I just got to sit still for 2 years and hunker down. And then I own 100% of the company after 2 years.
You're sacrificing sweat equity for long-term profitability. So get it paid off, and more importantly, establish those relationships.
Yeah. But when that shit don't work, like I just said, when you're getting a management fee, and now that you're not hitting your 20%, you're hitting 4% annual returns, we're going to have to give up equity on the next one.
Right. We have 8 minutes before 1:30. Zane, I want to respect your time. I know you said you had a hard stop at 1:30.
I have an unbelievable. I have to do a call with an SBA administrator.
Ooh, fun.
Not for me.
Maybe we can record that.
It's a background check, so it's a government thing. Which made me smile. I got this email.
Interesting.
It said,
for a buddy.
And I was like, these people still work in those. I just figured that those departments were gone.
Yeah.
It's going to be AI.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going with this.
I do want to get tech stack. I would be curious, where are you guys at with your tech stack today?
That's not.
I know it's not you, but do you know, what do you, Toast POS?
Yeah, we use Toast. I know
We were an
that
early
much.
adopter for Toast,
Are
too.
you
We were
using
probably
it-
one of their first clients.
Are you using an enterprise solution beneath that, like a general ledger and costing, purchasing, inventory management?
Absolutely, but I couldn't name
Yeah, I
it.
couldn't tell you.
Yes.
I'm picking up what you
See what I'm
guys
saying? You see what we were saying earlier?
Yeah.
There's proof.
I mean, yeah. Well,
Next podcast, you'll have to have Kip on, and he can break everything
Well, that's
down for
actually
you.
a good
hey,
idea.
I would love to make that
He's a very
happen.
smart guy.
Is he around here?
Good listen.
Yeah,
in Utah?
he's
He's your president?
Yeah, he lives in San Antonio, but he's in Austin all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey. Anything that you want to say before we wrap it up? Actually, where do you think we're going? Where's the future heading? I like to talk about that. We've kind of covered the past 4 years, where you guys are today, the possibilities for you, but where's the industry, the state of the industry? Are you guys paying attention to the big picture?
I'm like a yin and yang type of thing, a zig and zag guy. So when I see a cluster of all a groupthink in any industry, it makes me want to run away from it.
So you're middle of the road.
No, I think it swings back the other way.
What do you mean? So you're a yin
I
and
see
yang
too
kind of
much.
guy?
I think that there's too much. It is what it is. There's people sitting at home getting delivery. They're not having restaurant experiences, and I think they need to have restaurant experiences.
So you're saying when everybody's going over here, it's time to go over here.
That's
because
how I always.
the pendulum's going to
We
swing.
we always think like that.
Yeah.
That's as far as what those details look like. I don't know, but that's just a general feeling I have.
You're
I feel like-
counterculture.
Yeah, I'm a counterculture guy
I'm
for sure.
100% the same way.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with social media. Everybody who's out there who has a podcast right now is talking about what you need to do. And it's all talking about marketing, and it's all talking about I feel like this picture is Google, right? And everyone's in the fucking pot talking about Google. And this thing is Facebook, and everybody's over here inside the fucking bottle talking about Facebook.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I'm out here what the fuck are you guys doing in there? Can't you see the bigger picture?
Yes.
You're going to work for
Yes.
Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
They are the ones winning. You're a bunch of fucking monkeys right now,
Yeah.
echoing and parroting what the people who are dripping down, like your influencers, take this information and peddle it to all the restaurant owners. Meanwhile, the restaurant owners are losing.
That's right.
What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Eric's getting passionate.
It pisses me off,
They should
dude.
interview you.
Dude, it pisses me off. And it's just you guys are so interested in being the fucking top in your field of knowledge of marketing and bullshit that we're sending people down the wrong path. And the
agree.
path is community, relationships. Do the fucking thing that you're doing better than anybody else, and the fucking money will come to you. Don't put your 100 units of energy into saying you're the best in the world until you're the best in the fucking world. I can feel my blood pressure.
Yeah,
Wow.
can you
Am I
just
sweating
shut
again?
the microphone.
Well, you're getting
God
this
damn.
whole-
Just
you're
that's
getting
the way to
whole,
close it.
Fake it till you make it.
I think my fucking watch is going to go off telling me to chill out.
Here's an example. So think about back in the day before everybody was on email. We used to get just pounded with junk mail through traditional snail mail in our mailboxes at home, right? I get less junk mail than ever at my house. I don't know about you guys, but yet we're getting junk on social media. We're getting junk mail on LinkedIn. It's junk to me. It's all junk. It's just noise. And the same thing with email, to the point where we're ignoring most of it. So it's hard to get through because people aren't paying attention because they're just assuming
They're
the
just
worst.
scrolling anyways.
Right, so there's an opportunity, like we've been talking about. We love mailers. We're old school. We love mailers for marketing, but
Direct mail marketing is still second to
I
four
think
walls marketing.
I still think there's a need for it.
Yeah.
and I think you might have more eyes on it right now than we had 10 or 20 years ago.
It's more personal.
Yeah.
Dish Society just opened in my neighborhood, Houston-based
I'm
company.
talking to Aaron Lyons.
Oh,
next
he's a
week.
great guy.
Yeah.
And I got that mailer. He just opened in my neighborhood, and then I got hey, we're in your neighborhood. Come get our first meal on us. We want to say hi to you. And I'm like,
That's
that's
the
great.
perfect community outreach.
I'm not a coupon guy. I don't even pay attention to it. I'll go. I'll support that. Welcome to the neighborhood, dude. And we've been talking about that from a marketing standpoint of we just want to be your neighborhood pizza place. Yes, it's a huge company, but we just need to be to those people. We just need to be their neighborhood pizza place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think to your point, I think we're all we're being told the message is spend more time online, but what society clearly needs is community,
Together.
relationships,
That's
and
right.
we are humans at the end of the day. We need the restaurant industry was born out of public houses where you would go to get your news, to get your entertainment, to get your mail, to get your food, to get your drink, to get to your community. And like we've gotten, the restaurant industry has strayed so far away from that. And to like now it's just about getting people as much food as fast as possible, as cheaply as possible.
And make it Instagrammable.
Right. And then make sure it looks good on a photo.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I can get behind that.
That's just one
like
example. But like, what do you think, man?
I mean, that's it. I do worry about people just eating at home.
Yeah.
You know, I met a fellow restaurateur the other day for lunch, and we were talking about the same exact thing. Like, we used to sit around and stress about 3% or 4% going to the credit card companies when Google and when Uber Eats and DoorDash are taking 15, 18, 20%. I don't know what people are paying, but so and then we still got to pay the 4% that we were already complaining about.
Right.
So now you're almost 25% off the top, and then he texted me later on this day. And I'm sorry if he listens to this podcast, but then he texted me later on the day and said, "I just got it DoorDash to my house. Your pizza's great." And I was just like, "What?" Come on.
Yeah. You know, it's. I think what's happening is the restaurateur is always head down doing the work, so consumed about what's happening immediately around them. And meanwhile, you have all this ancillary adjacent industry that's just like picking off the hard work of the restaurant owner.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the restaurant owner is the last one to benefit if they are able to benefit. Just had Evan Leroy on the show. Michelin star barbecue. They are, after a year of being in operation, over a year of being in operation, they're just now in the black.
Yeah, believe
and
it.
they're doing good work.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like it's getting harder and harder for good people to do good work.
Yeah.
And like,
well, in this town especially.
Yeah.
If you're not a restaurant group, it's pretty hard to do
and like
business in
I
this
only say
town.
that because he said it publicly. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like airing out his dirty laundry. Like, but like that's the issue. Like, how do we keep what keeps the thing so amazing, this industry so amazing? How do we sustain that? You know, like that's what I want to figure out.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have
I
1
think
minute
it's-
now.
I think just Austin specifically, we've talked about the suburbs more, where affordable rents are and again, where
Yeah.
people are community focused. You lose the community sense being in downtown.
I can keep going.
I think it's worse than ever here in Austin.
Yeah.
It's a transient city, and I think that's really what it's destined to be.
It is 1:30, so if you have to hop off for a call,
I got this,
Brandon. If you want to keep
so
going,
much fun. This SBA call I've got to do.
Like I'm
I
willing.
think you should take the SBA like this. And just give us.
I don't
an
know what I'm getting
education.
myself into with
But
that.
I'm happy.
We'll see.
No, I think you're right. That suburban's like back to where, like the public house. Like if you wanted to start a town in 1780, the first thing you needed to do was to establish a public house, and then the town was built around that. And today, it's like you have these, like you fly over Dallas, and it's an ocean of like homes that are on top of each other, and then like 20 miles away, there's like a shopping center.
Yep.
And like, there's no communal place for people to go, and there's
Yeah.
so
That's
much
what I was saying.
opportunity.
I
there.
still think there's a need for that.
Yeah, 100. There's not just a need, like there's tons of opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the communities do support it. It's the downtown traffic that wants everything just delivered to their house, really. I mean, I don't have the data in front of me, but I feel like if we looked at our Cedar Park store compared to our East 6th Street store, the numbers are probably a lot of delivery, third-party dependent over here and not as much in Cedar Park and Round Rock. I think the suburbs like to still go out and get dinner as a family. And
I could keep talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm about to come back in like four more years when you guys are at 50 locations and you cash out completely.
I hope so.
That's the hope. I'm sure you guys will get there. There's no two dudes that deserve it more. It's you guys for sure.
Thank you, man.
Before we say goodbye, who do you respect and admire in the industry? People that need to be on my radar. I'm in Austin for 2 more months, or maybe they're across the country. Like, who are people that if you found out they were a guest in the show, you'd be like, I want to see what they have to say.
Yeah. I feel like that list is getting harder and harder. Not that for like, because we're...
Tom Rosenbagel.
Yeah.
Well,
he's doing good stuff. And it is. It's just honest, hard work, bagel concept.
can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm thinking.
In the pizza industry specifically, it's Chris Bianco or John Arena.
Yeah.
And talking about guys that have been in the industry since the 1980s.
How do you spell arena?
Just exactly
Like the
Baseball.
the man in the arena.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, I just they're the kind of like there aren't a lot of people in our line of work that when they speak or they do an interview that it makes me stop and comb over every word. But those two guys,
Where's John based?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. And I know Bianco's in Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah. But they're like sages, and that's why I think their words have a lot of weight.
John Arena, Chris Bianco, always welcome on the show. I'd love to connect. Did you have anybody in mind, Brandon?
No, I felt like last time we talked, I had like a laundry list of people, and right now I'm
Well, you mentioned the president of VF313.
Yeah, I think obviously he's done a lot of cool stuff and is doing daily good work. Aaron Lyons, I think, is doing a great job with Dish Society.
And maybe connecting with him. Awesome. You're reinforcing what I've learned already. So that's good. The patterns. I like to see that. How can we connect with you guys? If we've enjoyed today's conversation, we want to follow you on social, or maybe we want to ask for money.
We need money. We're always raising. So if you want to invest, give us money, please. Come find me on LinkedIn.
Websites, social handles.
Yeah, just LinkedIn, Brandon Hunt.
Brandon Hunt.
I have a LinkedIn that I haven't looked at in 2 years, so I don't know. Email.
I have
at via313.com. bhunt at via313.com.
And I have their phone numbers. I'll make sure to include that.
Yes.
Show notes. No, I just want to do that. Guys, thank you so much for continually supporting me and what I'm doing here 3 times in the show. I'm kind of a jerk. I ask personal questions. I push and I make it awkward.
Such an ass.
But that's in those areas where that's where there's growth.
We dreaded this all day today.
And you guys make it possible. You make what I do possible, and I can't say thank you enough. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable. Cheers.
Thanks, dude.